I am Susan Pollack. I lived in a small village not far from Budapest. I'm a little girl, perhaps as old as you are, some of you are here, 13 years old. We were loyal citizens, law-abiding, made our contribution. Little did we know, little could we imagine the horror that invaded our lives. There was anti-Semitism, yes, in Hungary. But we could live with it. And where could we go anyway? We thought it would just blow away. But now we know differently. Nothing goes away unless each and every one of us takes that personal responsibility to stand up. We were doomed. We were doomed. Not that we knew very much about what was going on, Hitler's plans, we didn't. Why? Because after Hungary joined the Axis alliance, the information we received was all nothing. Nothing about the Kristallnacht that took place in Germany, the many killings that took place in Germany and Poland. We did not know. They called a meeting. There were only about 16 Jewish families living in that village. Well, they were reluctant because they did not trust the authorities. But they went, had to know, had to have some knowledge, some ideas what was awaiting us. We went, and I had seen my father, together with all the other men, being brutally beaten up in front of my eyes as they were herded on to our waiting lorry, and I hadn't seen him since. And then the Hungarian gendarmerie came back and said, we're the next ones to be transported.
We're standing in the synagogue complex in Belfast. At this very moment, there's a large group of school children who are being talked to by a Holocaust survivor. Why is that important? Well, it's important simply because it must never happen again. It happened 25 years ago in Srebrenica. It happened in Darfur. So don't say it can't happen again, because it does happen again. People just refuse to learn.
I'm a little speechless, it's hard to put into words. I just feel like it was a very important story.
To hear it in school, it's interesting, but to actually hear it from someone who experienced it, it's so much different.
It's quite heartbreaking actually that people could do that to people, and they could murder family and children.
We probably are going to be the last generation that will get to hear it firsthand. It's important for us to know now so that we can go back to school and tell our families and tell them what happened and tell them the first-hand story that we heard today.
It's important to remember, even though it's over 70 years ago now, it's still important to remember about this and take into consideration those who lived through it.
We shouldn't take what we have for granted, all the rights and stuff that she was deprived of. It's just important that we remember that we have all those, and the way we live today is something we should be grateful for.
I think it has brought history alive. I can even see with my kids outside, they're talking, they're bouncing and they're bubbly, and they can't actually get back into the classroom to talk to me about it.
People want to hear and they want to know, and not only that, but they're perhaps and hopefully, and I'm reasonably certain they will, bring it forward, speak about it to their families, their friends, and keep the memory alive, and also make a commitment towards improving the culture and the belief about the Jews.
I was very innocent. I didn't know about anything what was happening for the simple reason my parents never told me. I was only 6-year-old little boy. They didn't want to frighten me. I didn't wear the yellow star because in the village everybody knew us. There was no police to enforce the law, so I didn't know about the Yellow Star either. So in the evening, before I was going to the school, my aunt was sewing the Yellow Star on my coat. And I very innocently asked, what is that for? And she said, nothing, we are Jewish and we have to wear a yellow star. That was the time, for the first time, that I realized I'm different. Because when there were children on the corner of the street without the yellow star, Gentile, they suddenly started to shout at me, you dirty Jew, you smelly Jew, go to Palestine, and all kind of insult that I can't even mention. They would throw stone after me. They caught me a couple of times, gave me a couple of kicks in my backside, and they let me go. It was very frightening. I remember at the time I ran to the school all the way, and I ran back all the way. And when I saw children standing on one side of the road, I would run to the other side of the road so that they can't spit at me. I had to suffer this degrading and very hard for a very innocent child to take.
His whole backstory before he was even taken to the camp was very interesting. To know that he was a person treated this way was really emotional, and just to remind us that we all should strive to be friends and not let our differences come between us.
It was really good and really inspiring.
I thought it was really surreal and moving to know that this actually did happen to real people.
You get to hear how he experienced it every single day, how he's seen it, how he sees it through his eyes.
You read novels about the Holocaust and watch documentaries, but to actually have the opportunity to hear him speak about the horrific things that he endured was very shocking.
I think it's really sad that future generations won't get to hear, a first-hand experience from the Holocaust. And I think we're very lucky that we do get to hear that today.
I'm reliving my past. When I started to speak in school, it was very, very difficult. I used to break down because while you're speaking sometimes, the event becomes very real. And today I can take a sup of water and hide it a little bit because it's not very pleasant when you have 300, 400 students and you are in tears or anything like this. I speak to educate young people that we make sure history doesn't repeat itself.
I'm here today to share my experience with pupils from several schools to introduce them to my story and story from Bosnia and the genocide and the war in the 90s that many people are not aware of. And many people are aware of Srebrenica in 95, but not the whole story that started back in 1992. Hopefully creates better relationships and an understanding of the suffering that people go through. The Serbian government agreed to British journalists to come and film the concentration camp because they tried to sell it as a story about a place where people go to stay safe. Before they were allowed to go to Omarska, most people from Omarska camp were taken to Majnice, including my dad. A handful of people were left. So when they filmed it in Omarska, it didn't look as awful as we knew it was. They made sure the men had clothes on, and they were also taking them to canteen to eat. But when they allowed them to go to Ternopil concentration camp after that, there was no hiding. There was barbed wire around these people. Some of them didn't wear tops, and you could see the bare bones and skin just hanging off. And there was no hiding. It was a concentration camp. I cannot remember we managed to see it on TV. As the camera at the concentration camp, I recognized my brother in the window. It was him, two of my close neighbors, and one of my other neighbors from a neighboring street. I was happy that he's alive, but he's in a concentration camp, and it wasn't something that you could just leave. And this video report, when it came out in August, when we saw it on TV and it was British journalists, I was certain that war wasn't going to last in Bosnia. This is going to stop soon. Everyone's going to see this. People are going to say, no more, this is in the middle of Europe. How can we allow concentration camps in the 90s? And that was August 92. Srebrenica happened in July 95.
I was chilling, hairs in the back of your neck stood up, and just to hear, like, that's a real experience. Like, you wouldn't expect that from a European country so recently.
In Bosnia there is division over there, like there is over here with Catholics and Protestants. They fight and they should get along.
In school, we are learning about Nazi Germany for my GCSE history. So I can see the similarities between Bosnia and World War II.
I would like at this time to introduce you to Tommy Reichental, who has just joined us at the back here. Tommy was also in Belsen. Tommy Reichental. Susan
Tommy. Yeah, I heard about you.
Can I hug you?
Okay. God bless you. God bless you.
When two Holocaust survivors meet.
Yes.
That's like we belong to a club.
That's true.
Because
That's
what
true.
we went through is something that people can't even imagine.
No,
and
no.
I feel when I meet you, like I met you years ago.
Yes.
You're part of the family.
Yes.
And that's
yes.
it's something special
yes.
that is among the Holocaust survivors.
Yes,
We
very
are-
true.
Yeah.
Very true. There are not many left of us.
No, no, no.
You
It's
know?
slowly.
And it brings people a trust.
Yeah.
There is that trust that exists between the survivors. Yeah. Oh dear. You can ask yourself, how was it possible?
I didn't talk about it for 55 years to
No.
nobody.
No.
I lost my wife in 2003 to cancer, and she didn't know anything about me. I never told her.
You didn't?
And I was 43 years married to her, but I never told her what I went through. She knew I was a Holocaust survivor. But
what it meant and what I must admit, I myself didn't speak that much to my children. My husband was a Holocaust survivor.
Yeah.
So I didn't have to discuss anything with him because I suppose, you know, the horror and the tragedy that befell us, having lost family and us, I mean, incredible suffering we went through. You wanted to kind of to bury it.
yeah, forget about it, yeah.
Well, forget you can't forget, ever.
No.
But not to give it too much space.
If we weren't reminding people and talking about it, would it get better or worse? My guess is it would get worse.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
For example, if I knew that if I forget everything that happened in Bosnia, I'd stop talking about genocide, things will just improve, but I'll do it now.
Yeah.
If that was a choice, but that's not a choice.
Mm-hmm.
We know what happens when you stop talking about it. Hopefully, one day, we will make sure that things don't repeat.
We were chatting about the difference between statistics and then personal stories and how that changes stuff, so it's good that we have survivors to talk to, and it's good that they come onto schools.
I didn't really know anything about the Bosnian genocide, so it was really interesting finding out about a genocide that I thought hasn't happened since World War II has happened not that long ago.
In 92 and 93 I worked as an international volunteer in refugee camps in former Yugoslavia. That was at the time, at the height of the war there, and this has brought back many memories. Stories can make such a big impact on us, so I think that's why it's really very important people like him talk to young people.
Safet's talk was very interesting, and to learn about his backstory and how rough his childhood was quite fascinating.
It makes it seem far more real because, like, when you're watching it in videos, it doesn't make it seem personal enough, but when you hear it, it's fascinating.
Soldiers came into our streets shouting, all the men come out, go to the main road, you'll be taken in for questioning.
13 of us stood in front of Arius Brunner and he said, one goes there, one goes to the left.
Women and their babies, their children, all pushed in to these wagons.
I started walking behind my brother and my dad. My mum raised her voice at me and said, you're just a child, come back. So I came back. That saved my life. I do believe had I gone to a concentration camp, I would not survive.
The moment when we were put in the cattle cart, as we were standing before we went in, We felt as civilized people, and the moment that we were locked in, we became like animals.
Finally the train stopped. My hair was shaven off and we were marched into these barracks.
The world stood aside to make sure that the Serbian army can go in and do what they like. And the scenes of men being taken to one side, women and children taken to another side, taken on the buses, taken away, men taken to the fields, to mass graves.
We were sent on a death march. When the guard wasn't looking, we were scraping for food, and if we were caught, we were shot.
The whole camp was covered with corpses 4 feet high. We used to play hide and seek. We didn't hide behind a trees or behind a wall. We used to hide behind a pile of corpses.
8,000 people was killed over the matter of few days, only few days, and all because the UN stood aside.
It's actually resonated with me myself. My great uncle, I found out recently, was helped to liberate the camp that Susan was liberated from, and I know that he actually followed the same journey, ironically, as her as well. He couldn't settle back in Northern Ireland and he moved to Canada, and I know it had a huge amount of mental health issues afterwards as well, so hearing her story is highly emotional.
In today's society we need to become more inclusive, I think, and her story really represents that and how important that is. And
to ensure that something like this does not happen ever again.
It was really enlightening. I wasn't aware of how severe the treatment was, even before the Holocaust, even before he got sent away, you know, how severe that anti-Semitic society was.
It was spectacular to hear actually first-hand evidence of someone who actually went through it.
So powerful to hear the personal testimony. But what is at the heart of that testimony is that a lot of the learning is about relationships, because relationship dismantles prejudice. And if we can learn that and apply it to our situation in other regions, then I think we'll avoid an awful lot of conflict and misery and killing.
In Northern Ireland, in a post-conflict society, we're moving forward on that journey of building a shared society. It needs to be free from intolerance, from hatred and from discrimination. So those harrowing, poignant stories that we've heard today, learn those lessons, draw on those lessons and make a change for peace.
Holocaust Memorial Day 2020, it will mark the 75th anniversary of the liberation of Auschwitz. It's a really significant anniversary year, and it's such a great opportunity for people to come together from different ages and diverse groups to learn from genocide and help to work together to create a better future.
It's been a tremendously uplifting and a great, great experience, meeting so many wonderful people. This year, we're all together. How wonderful. How wonderful. What, especially relating to the Holocaust, we are together. We're supporting to each other.
I'm delighted to do this. It's very important, and doing it in such an intensive way. You can drop a pin and you have 300 students there and you can hear the pin dropping.
I'm certainly grateful to everyone involved and anyone who's helped organise this, and certainly grateful for children listening to my story and hopefully taking something out of it and hopefully making a change, making a difference in their own community, not necessarily in wider world, but at least in their own community, because that's where it starts and hopefully progresses from there.